we move on and welcome our special guest for the evening, Mr. Stephen Rea. Of course, all of you know Stephen Rea from his incredible films like The Crying Game, Michael Collins, V for Vendetta, The Butcher Boy, Guinevere, and a favourite of mine, Citizen X. Stephen also co-founded the Field Day Theatre in Derry with the acclaimed playwright Brian Friel. We are absolutely thrilled and honoured that he could make the journey out to Chicago for this weekend and that he can join us in a selection of Joyce readings this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Stephen Rea. And he's going to start out with a reading from the Cyclops chapter, where the narrator goes into Barney Kiernan's pub and meets a character referred to as a citizen. Ladies and gentlemen.
I was just passing the time of day with old Troy at the DMP at the corner of Arbor Hill there, and be damned, but a bloody sweep came along and he near drove his gear into me eye. I turned around to let him have the weight of me tongue, when who should I see dodging along Stony Batter? Only Joe Hines. "Lo, Joe," says I, "how are you blowing? Come on around to Barney Kieran," says Joe, "I want to see the citizen." So we turned into Barney Kieran's, and there sure enough was the citizen up in the corner having a great confab with himself and the bloody mangy mongrel Gary Owen, and he waiting for what the sky would drop in the way of drink. "There he is," says I, in his glory hole with his Krushkeen lawn and his load of papers working for the cause. The bloody mongrel let a grouse out of him would give you the creeps. Be a corporal work of mercy if someone would take the life of that bloody dog. I'm told for a fact he ate a good part of the breeches of a constabulary man in Santry that came around one time with a blue paper about a licence. "Stand and deliver," says he. "That's all right, citizen," says Joe. "Friends here. Pass, friends," says he. Then he rubs his hand in his eye and says he, "What's your opinion of the times?" "I think the markets are on a rise," says he, sliding his hand down his fork. So big up the citizen claps his paw on his knee and he says, "Foreign wars is the cause of it." And says Joe, sticking his thumb in his pocket, "It's the Russians wish to tyrannise." "Ara, give over your bloody cotton, Joe," says I. "If I thirst on me, I wouldn't sell for half a crown." "Give it a name, citizen," says Joe. "Wine of the country," says he. "What's yours?" says Joe. "Ditto Macanasby," says I. "3 points, Terry," says Joe. "And how's the old heart, citizen?" says he. "Never better, Achara," says he. So anyhow, Terry brought the 3 points Joe was standing, and begob the sight nearly left me eyes when I saw him land out a quid. "Oh, it's true as I'm telling you, a good-looking sovereign. And there's more where that came from," says he. "Were you robbing the poor box, Joe?" says I. "Sweating me brow," says Joe. "'Twas the prudent member gave me the wheeze. I saw him before I met you," says I, sloping round by Pill Lane and Greek Street with his cod's eye, counting up all the guts of the fish. "For the old woman of Princess Street," says the citizen, "the subsidised organ." "Ah, well," says Joe, handing round the booze. "Drink that, citizen." "I will," says he, "honourable person." "Health, Joe," says I, and all down the farm. Don't be talking. I was blue mouldy for the want of that point. Declare to God I could hear it hit the pit of me stomach with a click. Little Alf Bergen popped in round the door and hid behind Barney's snug, squeezed up with the laughing, and who was sitting up there in the corner that I hadn't seen, snoring drunk, blind to the world, only Bob Dorgan. I did know what was up, and Alf kept making signs out of the door. "Look at him," says he. "Breen. He's traipsing all around Dublin with a postcard someone sent him with UP up on it. To take a libel action," says he, "for £10,000. "Oh, hell," says I. "Who?" says Joe. "Breen," says Alf. "He was in John Henry Menton's, and then he went round to Collison Wards, and then Tom Rochford met him and sent him round to the sub-sheriffs for a lark. Oh, God, I've a pain laughing. UP up. The long fella gave him an eye, as good as a process, and now the bloody old lunatic has gone round to Green Street to look for a G-man." "Bergen," says Bob Dorgan, waking up. "Is that Alf Bergen?" "Yes," says Alf. "Here, Terry, give us a pony." "That bloody old fool, £10,000. You should have seen Long John's eye, UP," and he started laughing. "What are you laughing at?" says Bob Dorgan. "Is that Bergen?" "Hurry up, Terry boy," says Alf. "What are you laughing at?" says Bob Dorgan. So I saw there was going to be a bit of a dust. Bob's a queer chap when the porter's up in him. So says I, just to make him talk, How's Willie Murray these times, Alf? Oh, I don't know, says Alf. I saw him just now in Cable Street, Paddy Dignam, only I was running after that. You what? Says Joe. With who? With Dignam, says Alf. Is it Paddy? Says Joe. Yes, says Alf. Why? Don't you know he's dead? Says Joe. Paddy Dignam dead? Says Alf. Aye, says Joe. Sure, I'm after seeing him not 5 minutes ago, says Alf, as plain as a pikestaff. Who's dead, says Bob Dordan. You saw his ghost then, says Joe. God between us and harm. What, says Alf? Good Christ, only what? And Willie Murray with him, the two of them there near, what do you call him? What, Dignam dead? What about Dignam, says Bob Dordan. Who's talking about? Dead, says Alf. He's no more dead than you are. Maybe so, says Joe. But they took the liberty of burying him this morning anyway. Paddy, says Alf. Why, says Joe. He paid the debt of nature. God be merciful to him. Good Christ, says Alf. Begob, he was what you might call flabbergasted. There he is again, says the citizen, staring out. Who, says I. Blue, says he. He's on point duty up and down there for the last 10 minutes. Little Alf was knocked barways. Feth he was. Good Christ, says he. I could have sworn it was him. And says Bob Dordan, who said Christ is good? I beg your parsnips, says Alf. Is that a good Christ, says Bob Dordan, to take away poor little Willie Dignam? Ah well, says Alf, trying to pass it off, he's over all his troubles. But Bob Dordan shouts out of him, he's a bloody ruffian, I say, to take away poor little Willie Dignam. Terry came down and tipped them the wink to keep quiet, that he didn't want that kind of talking in respectable licensed premises. And Bob Dordan starts doing the weeps about Paddy Dignam, true as you're there. The finest man, says he. The finest, purest character. The tear is bloody near your eye, talking through his bloody hat. Fitter for him to go home to the little sleepwalking bitch he married. Mooney, the bum bailiff's daughter. Mother kept a kip in Hardwick Street that used to be stravaiging about the landings. Bantam Lyons told me that was stopping there at 2 in the morning without a stitch on her, exposing her person, open to all comers. Fairfield and no favour. The noblest, the truest, says he, and he's gone. Poor little Willie, poor little Paddy Dignam. Old Gary Owen started growling again at Bloom that was skeezing round the door. Come in, come on, he won't eat you, says the citizen. So Bloom steps in with his cod's eye on the dog and he asks Terry, was Martin Cunningham there? Hello, Bloom, says Joe, what'll you have? So they started arguing about the point. Bloom saying he wouldn't and he couldn't and excuse him, no offence at all to that. And then he said, well, he'd just take a cigar. God, he's a prudent member and no mistake. Same again, Terry, says Joe. Are you sure you won't have anything in the way of liquid refreshment, says he. Thank you, no, says Bloom. As a matter of fact, I just wanted to meet Martin Cunningham. Don't you see about this insurance of poor Dignam's? Martin asked me to go to the house. So anyway, in came John Wise Nolan and Lenihan with him, with a face on him as long as a late breakfast. What's up with you, says I to Lenihan. You look like a fella that has lost a bob and found a tanner. Gold cup, says he. Who won, Mr. Lenihan, says Terry. Throw away, says he, at 20-1, a rank outsider, and the rest nowhere. And Bass's mare, says Terry. Still running, says he. We're all in a cart. Boylan plunged £2 on my tip sceptre for himself and a lady friend. I had half a crown myself, said Terry, on Zinfandel that Mr. Flynn gave me. 20-1, says Lenihan. Such is life in an outhouse. Throw away, says he. Keep your pecker up, says Joe. She'd have won the money only for the other dog. And JJ and the citizen argued about law and history with Bloom sticking in an odd word. Some people, says Bloom, can see the mote in others' eyes, but they can't see the beam in their own. Ramesh, says the citizen. There's no one as blind as the fella that won't see, if you know what that means. But, says Bloom, isn't discipline the same everywhere? I mean, wouldn't it be the same here if you put force against force? We'll put force against force, says the citizen. We have our greater Ireland beyond the sea. They were driven out of house and home in the Black 47. But those that came to the land of the free remember the land of bondage. And they will come again, and with a vengeance. No cravens. The sons of Granuaile, the champions of Kathleen ni Houlihan. perfectly true, says Bloom. But my point was, we are a long time waiting for that day, citizen, says Ned. Since the poor old woman told us that the French were on the Say and landed at Killala. Persecution, says Bloom, all the history of the world is full of it, perpetuating national hatred among nations. But do you know what a nation means, says John Wise. Yes, says Bloom. What is it, says John Wise. A nation, says Bloom. A nation is the same people living in the same place. By God then, says Ned laughing, if that's so, I'm a nation, for I'm living in the same place for the past 5 years. So of course everyone had a good laugh at Bloom and says he trying to muck out of it, or living in different places. That covers my case, says Joe. What is your nation, if I may ask, says the citizen. Ireland, says Bloom. I was born here. Ireland. The citizen said nothing, only cleared the spit out of his gullet, and he spat a red bank oyster out of him right in the corner. And I belong to a race too, says Bloom, that is hated and persecuted. Also now, this very moment, this very instant. Are you talking about the New Jerusalem, says the citizen. I'm talking about injustice, says Bloom. But it's no use. Force, hatred, history, all that. That's not life for men and women, insult and hatred. And everybody knows that it's the very opposite of that that is really life. What? Says Alf. Love, says Bloom. I mean the opposite of hatred. I must go now, he says to John Wise. Just round to the court a moment to see if Martin is there. If he comes, just say I'll be back in a second. Just a moment. Who's hindering you? And off he pops like greased lightning. A new apostle to the Gentiles, says the citizen. Universal love. Well, says John Wise, isn't that what we're told? Love your neighbours. That chap, says the citizen. Beggar my neighbour is his motto. Love Maria. I know where he's gone, says Lenihan, cracking his fingers. Who, says I. Bloom, says he. The courthouses are blind. He had a few bob on throwaway, and he's gone to gather in the shekels. Is it that white-eyed kaffir, says the citizen, that never backed a horse in anger in his life? That's where he's gone, says Lenihan. I met Bantam Lyons going to back that horse, only I put him off it, and he told me Bloom gave him the tip. Bet you what you like, he has 100 shillings to 5 on. He's the only man in Dublin has it. A dark horse. He's a bloody dark horse himself, says Joe. Well, it's a fact, says John Wise, and there's a man now that'll tell you about it. Martin Cunningham. Sure enough, the castle car drove up with Martin on it and Jack Power with him, and a fella named Crofter or Crofton. So in comes Martin asking where was Bloom. Where is he, says Lenihan. Defrauding widows and orphans. That's the new Messiah for Ireland, says the citizen. Island of saints and sages. Well, they're still waiting for their Redeemer, says Martin. For that matter, so are we. Have you time for a brief libation, Martin, says Ned. Only one, says Martin, we must be quick. St. Patrick would want us to land again at Ballykindler and convert us, says the citizen, after allowing things like that to contaminate our shores. Well, says Martin, rapping for his glass, God bless all here is my prayer. Amen, says the citizen. And I'm sure he will, says Joe. And so say all of us, says Jack. I was just looking around to see who the happy thought would strike when, be damned, but in he comes again, letting on to be in a hell of a hurry. I was just around at the courthouse, he says, looking for you. I hope I'm not. No, says Martin, we're ready. Courthouse, my eye, and your pockets hanging down with gold and silver. Mean bloody scut. Stands and drink itself. Divil a sweet fear. There's a Jew for you, all for number one. Cute as a shithouse rat. 100 to 5. Don't tell anyone, says the citizen. Beg your pardon, says he. Come on, boy, says Martin, seeing it was looking blue. Come along now. Don't tell anyone, says the citizen, letting a ball out of him. It's a secret. And the bloody dog woke up and let it growl. Bye-bye all, says Martin, and he got them out as quick as he could. Jack Power and Crofton, or whatever you call him, and him in the middle of them, letting on to be all at sea, up with them on the bloody jaunting car. Off with you, says Martin to the Jarvey. But begob, I was just lowering the heel of the point when I saw the citizen getting up to waddle to the door, puffing and blowing with the dropsy, and he cursing the curse of Cromwell on him, bell, book and candle in Irish, spitting and spatting out of him, and Joe and little Alf around him like a leprechaun trying to pacify him. Let me alone, says he. And by God, he got as far as the door, and they holding him, and he bawls out of him, 3 cheers for Israel! Ara, sit down on the parliamentary side of your arse for Christ's sake. And don't be making a public exhibition of yourself. Jesus, there's always some bloody clown or other kicking a bloody murder of a bloody nothing. God would turn the porter sour in your guts. And all the ragamuffins and sluts of the nation round the door. And Martin telling the Jarvey to drive ahead, and the citizen bawling, and Alf and Joe had him to whist, and he and his high horse about the Jews, and says Bloom, Mendelssohn was a Jew, and Karl Marx, and Mercadante, and Spinoza, and the Saviour was a Jew, and his father was a Jew, your God. He had no father, says Martin. That'll do now, drive ahead. Who's God, says the citizen. Well, his uncle was a Jew, says he. Your God was a Jew. Christ was a Jew like me. God, the citizen made a plunge back into the shop. Be Jesus, says he, I'll bring that bloody Jew man for using the holy name. By Jesus, we'll crucify him somehow. Give me that biscuit box there. Stop, stop, says Joe. God, the devil wouldn't stop until he got hold of the bloody tin anyhow and out with him. Where is he till I murder him? But as luck would have it, the Jarvey got the nag's head round the other way and off with him. Hold on, citizen, says Joe. Stop. Begob, he drew his hand and made a swipe and let fly. Mercy of God, the sun was in his eyes or it had left him for dead. God, he near sent it into the county Longford. The bloody nag took fright, and the old mongrel after the car like bloody hell, and all the populace shouting and laughing, and the old tin box clattering along the street. You never saw the like of it in all your born puff. The Jarvey saved his life by furious driving, as sure as God made Moses. What? Oh, Jesus, he did. And he let a volley of oaths after him. Did I kill him, says he, or what? And he's shouting to the bloody dog, after him, Gary, after him, boy. And the last we saw was a bloody car round the corner, an old sheep face on it gesticulating, and the bloody mongrel after it with his lugs back for all he was bloody well worth to tear him limb from limb, 100 to 5. Jesus, he took the value out of him, I promise you.
Stephen is going to read your poem, and I have to let you know